Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Zack Olinger. In this podcast series, I talk about relationships. Now, I know, as a man, you may not want to talk about relationships, or you may even tell me that the relationship that you're in is already pretty good. But I'm going to invite you to consider this. Could you be a little bit more fulfilled in the relationship that you have? I would like to have you consider that there may be other ways to kind of see the conflicts that are truly just unnecessary that we all experience in a different light. And if you're open to receiving or just giving me a little bit of your time, then I look forward to my guests and I inspiring you to become a man that can have more freedom, less conflict, and more pleasure in their relationships. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Real Zack Olinger. Today, my guest is Miss Banks from In Real Life Enterprises, and she works with companies on getting government contracts or running the HR departments and getting them set up. And she also travels as a guest speaker, speaking about business and spirituality, among many other things. I really appreciate you being a guest today, Miss Banks. And she's going to talk to us today about a relationship that she's working on with her brother, who has just been recently released from 14 years in prison. Is that correct, Miss Banks?
Yes, it is.
Cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so the last time we saw each other, I want to say I was about 22 years old.
Okay, gotcha. So, what was the relationship like prior to him being sent to prison?
Well, our childhood was a disaster, I guess you could say. We were kidnapped at a young age,
Okay.
and we were together during that time. And then about I want to say about middle school, a lot of abuse started in the household. And so we began to drift apart because I was older. So I received a lot of the kickback from things that took place. And so probably in high school was when the 10th grade actually was when I left home.
Okay.
And I haven't returned since. And so growing up with him, that was my little brother. I fight for him, love him and everything. But now meeting him again as a grown man is completely different. So the love for him being my brother is there. But, I'm seeing things that I just don't agree with, and I don't know how to express that to him without because he just came home. So I don't want to seem like I don't want to be a part of his life. I just feel like I really need to take it slow. This is something I've never had to go through.
Gotcha. Yeah. So is he, when you say like back home, is he living with you or like close to you, or like I guess if you don't mind me getting into specifics about what the arrangement looks like as far as how often you see him, or like how that relationship looks now as far as your interactions, like on a day-to-day basis, or how you see him as far as being a part of his life.
Okay. So since he got home May 7th.
Okay.
And so I saw him for the first time a week ago. And he lives in Connecticut and I'm in New York. So I did go there, and he came back with us, to visit. He got a chance to meet his niece and nephews, which he's never met before, and all of that was fun. But then after the weekend, the week start, I have work to do and things of that nature. And I'm just not used to, another male in general being in my house other than my ex-husband. So it was just weird, having him there, and and seeing his style of the way he lives versus what I have going on. I have to teach within my home because I have students. And then, I teach my business class. I have so many things going on. And then I have him sitting here in the corner like, hey, sis, let's go do this and let's go do that. And I'm like, I have stuff to do. And he doesn't seem to get that part.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's the disconnect between, what you have your obligations for versus what he may be seeking as far as things to do with you, or just kind of like how he wants to be spontaneous, it sounds like.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So is he staying with you now, or is he still living in Connecticut, or?
No, and I don't want this to sound too bad, but I
No,
got
I
him
get you.
a ticket.
Sure, sure.
I got him a ticket and sent him back to, his life.
Uh-huh.
And so he left last Thursday. It was either
Sure.
Thursday or Friday. And so we've spoken, on the
Mhm.
phone, and we're making plans for, my children and I to maybe go back out that way
Mhm.
again to see him. But I don't know about him coming into my household.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that, for sure. Yeah, there's just um I definitely feel the same way about my space, and like how, there's just a method, and and not wanting to have that really disrupted, and especially like when you're, working from home and you've got, things that need to be kind of done and a time frame to do them on, and that kind of a thing. So managing that, um, I can certainly appreciate. Um, yeah, and I've had some experiences like here recently, like with over the last 6 months or so with my own mom and my sisters, about kind of like a change in the dynamic of the relationship,
Mhm.
and just kind of learning what that looks like, because it's a shift on how it was, like for the first 42 years of my life, and now things are different, because of the things, just because of the boundaries I've wanted to set in place, and because of the choices that I want to make, and that can
Right.
cause some conflict, because people don't always agree with what we choose to do. Yeah. Um, so I guess on that regard, like you said, like being uncertain about how to communicate that, um, with uh, with your relationship with your brother, like has since he's been out, has there been, I guess, any conflict with it, or is it just something that you feel inside you that, like, that you might have to establish those boundaries, and you don't want to necessarily create more conflict than necessary for like establishing those boundaries?
Oh, yes. There has definitely been conflict.
Okay.
Um, one of my biggest problems is I was a married woman, and I have children. So I feel strongly when it comes to, I guess, men that has multiple
Hmm.
friendships. I don't want to say relationships, friendships with women, and I don't want to be involved in that. I'm going to say whatever I need to say, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I don't agree with it. I don't want to be around it.
Hmm.
And so it's just hard with him because it's like he got out and now he has about 50,000, women. And and I always say something to him and he gets upset with me, but and he wants me to understand like his way of life. But, on a more spiritual, deeper level, either way it goes, it's wrong to me.
Hmm.
So I'm not trying to put my views on you. I just want you to leave me out of it. I'd rather be your sister and love you, but not know all your business. I don't want to be around all the rigmarole you have on. When you come to my house, I'll turn my phone off. You turn your phone off, and let's get to know each other on that level. But don't just bring me into your life because I'm not bringing you into my life in that nature at all.
Hmm.
So, and that's, it's becoming a problem with him.
Gotcha. And I assume you've probably communicated that, in that way, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of
Oh,
curious.
yes.
So
Yes.
so then I'm just kind of curious then what his response may be when that's communicated. It sounds like he may not be receptive to that. So I'm just kind of curious what it looks like, if you
Right.
don't mind sharing it. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this.
Okay.
I got divorced in 2017. This was the first time I've ever argued with anyone
Hmm.
since 2017. The last argument I had like this was with my ex-husband. And, the next day, we spoke and talked to each other as if it was nothing. We didn't bring it up. There was no apology. It was just, we act like it didn't even happen. I bought him a ticket and then he went home.
Hmm.
So about a day or two later, that's when he apologized, sort of, and I told him, like, I love you, and I did my own little apology. It wasn't, oh, I apologize and I'm sorry, because I'm not. I meant what I said. I just wanted him to understand that I have to be defensive. You don't have any children. You don't understand that whole dynamic of being a parent and how I have to protect my child. And, being a survivor of, childhood abuse and domestic violence and so many other things that has happened to me, I am quick to say what I got to say, get it over with and move on, because I don't want that backlash. And for him, he understand, oh, you're big sis, and, you're just overprotective, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, no, it's, if you don't change your life, then we're not going to be able to be around each other, because since a lot of things has happened, this is my first time facing issues that's bringing up my childhood, that's bringing up my past. So every time I see him, I instantly see those things. And, some things you were a part of, and I can't just let that go, because I know I have children. So there's certain things I know I have to protect my children from. And so I'm at a point now to where I'm just in my mind going back and forth if I should even keep this relationship going. It's been years, and I'm perfectly fine. He's perfectly fine. Some things are just not meant to be. I'm still going to always be your sister, but we may not be able to be best friends.
Right. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that aspect as well. Like that's where relationships have to change sometimes, where it's like, I can still love you, but from afar, like where
Right.
like I can't necessarily be there with you while you're being you, like I love you, but you got to do this kind of on your own, like that's
Right.
yeah, I felt like that with my ex, and there's some of that, it seems like, like I said before, with my mom and my sisters, where I certainly love them and I want to have a relationship with them, and at the same time I know that there's a difference of opinions and values, and because of that, like there's no reason to create unnecessary conflict. So the easiest way to kind of do that is to just acknowledge the difference, and not necessarily be as present in each other's lives as we were before. Like those changes, sometimes they're absolutely necessary. Yeah, the boundaries.
Right.
Yeah, the boundaries of it, for sure. So when you have expressed that to him with the boundaries, I'm curious, what was he? How did he respond to that? And was he respectful about it, or was he kind of like, well, like, did he seem standoffish, or not, like closed off to the idea that you would want to, have those types of boundaries, to be that hard line about it, which is, I think, totally great, because that's taking care of yourself and protecting what you're just taking care of yourself and what you is right, what's right for you, yeah,
Right.
which I always support for people, for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just seems to be, I guess you could say, standoffish about it. I don't want to say he tried to play the guilt trip, but it's one, oh, I see how it is, and that's how you're gonna be, and all that tough stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, I'm a grown woman. I've dealt with your kind plenty of times, so you're not making me feel any type of way. It is what it is, and if you don't like it, then you can kick rocks. And that's my motto for a lot of things. I don't like to argue. I don't like to go through that. But when a person is intentionally making comments or saying things that a typical person would feel guilty. That's my brother. A lot of people would feel bad that I want you to leave tonight, but I ain't gonna put you out tonight. I'm gonna wait and put you out tomorrow. And that's how I looked at it. And I didn't want to continue the argument. And I just waited. And then you gone about your business. And when you're ready to talk to me, then you can talk to me, because now you know how you have to talk to me. You know what I'm gonna accept and what I'm not gonna accept. And it's the same way with him. I know that he likes his women. My father did, so that's to be expected. But I know how I have to deal with him, though. I wouldn't take him to an event with me. I wouldn't take him to anything important with me, because for you, it's getting those numbers and all the other mess where that can have a negative effect on any type of business relationship, and just put a different perspective of me as a person. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, that's just their characteristic. And no, you still going to look at that person, because you're going to say, oh, well, she's hanging with that person, or, that's her brother, so she's just like that too. And I don't have time for any of that. So I just believe that when he's ready, I believe he understands, and I believe that when he's ready, then it'll get better. But there's nothing I can do to push it. I can't change me.
Yeah. That's there's a lot there that I totally agree with. And like I say, I definitely will always support and respect people's, taking care of themselves and knowing what's right for them, and setting those boundaries and defending those. And the whole guilt by association, I totally get, where it's just kind of like, it may not be you at all, but like, if you introduce it, like it's just you can't control what other people think, and people may think, they're going to make up whatever story they are around it if they were to experience that. So I get just not having it around, at all makes a lot of sense to me. And about the guilt piece as well, like where some people would feel guilty, especially when it comes to family. I think that's one of the hardest relationships to have strong boundaries around for some of us, for sure. Probably maybe even deal to say most of us, because it is like, well, we grew up together, or we experienced, hard things together. We went through things together, and like, we're supposed to have a certain love, because of what we're modeled and told in our cultures and everything like that, where it's like, family comes first. And it's like, yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's the thing, is like, family has a place. But I've come to learn and grow into the belief that like, we shouldn't subjugate ourselves and like put the things that we value in jeopardy for the sake of family,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about that when I speak about free will.
Mm-hmm.
I've taught in Baptist, I've taught Christian, I studied Hebrew. And one thing I've learned with all the different religions is we are living our life, a lot of us in 2021, based off of what we were taught, what we was raised in. And we ignore the common sense. We ignore the reality. It's pastors ignore what they have learned. If they really sat down and study, the same thing that I know. So I'm not going to down you. I just know not to deal with you because you're willing to ignore a truth, where I'm just trying to follow the truth. Like I know this is wrong, and I'm not finna do this, and so I'm making a life change. You want me to still keep doing it because it benefits you. And when it comes to family, there has had to be a lot of changes in my life, I say within the last 15 years. And it's a lot of people that I just don't talk to, I just don't deal with. It's people my children have never met, and I feel safer, because of how my past was. I know you're better off not even meeting that. They're not irrelevant. I would still be married if other people would just open their eyes and see, but I can't force you, but I can't live unhappily either.
Right.
I have to make a choice, just like you made that choice. You made that choice, like with my brother, you made that choice to use, okay, I'm your sister. You want me to go buy you a $500 watch and this and that because I'm your sister. You haven't seen me in years. So if I would be stupid enough to go buy that watch, then I'm putting him before my responsibilities. And I'm not willing to do that. And I try not to deal with a lot of people that makes those type of decisions. We can be good friends, but once I see that you're really not, you would ignore the truth. You can tell me the truth and it's, but you would still ignore it just for your family. That lets me know that any given moment you can hurt me. Any given moment, whatever it is, you would do whatever because your mama says so, because your daddy or what. I don't want to be around those type of people because you're not thinking for yourself.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a good metric to use for sure, is people that are able to take that self-responsibility and own their actions and their thoughts, the thought process behind it, and not allow the how do we want to say, the dictates of others, or like the desires of others, or what other people want influence like their truth.
Mhm.
I think that's really important, that each of us define our own personal truth is, and that's why I'm always, happy to see people stand up for theirs, like, and have the boundaries, because they've taken that time and that ownership of themselves to know what's right for them, their truth. And
Yeah.
I think that's an important piece. And so, yeah, like, I think that's an important boundary to have as well. Like, if you don't want to let too many of those, or really anybody that's not going to be self-responsible or responsible of themselves, like, into a certain portion of your life, just because and then it just becomes very messy, and you've got a lot of other things to manage and deal with, that there's no reason to worry about it. You could just
Right.
section that off, and be like, look, never mind, man. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense to me, for sure. Yeah.
It has really made a difference in my life, and I wasn't always like that, but it
Mhm.
was the studying, and then it was taking the information and putting it into my life, and it was little bits and pieces that I started doing different. My feelings became different. Then so many other things just started waking up, and I was like, okay, I like this. It feels good. I'm smiling more. I'm doing more. I'm not weighed down by because your grandma don't like church's chicken. Like I can go eat as much church's chicken as I want at the barbecue because I brought my own food. Like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it made my environment so much better. It made it, more pleasurable for being with the children. Like we didn't have to worry about, oh, who's gonna get us something for Christmas, because we didn't care. We don't need all of that. We don't celebrate the holidays and all of that. And with families, oh, we got to go to such and such house for Thanksgiving, such and such house for Christmas. Well, I have 5 children whose birthdays in December, so I could really care less about Christmas. But that was something that helped me because I didn't care. All I cared was my children. They make good grades, I give them things. They do something good around the house, I give them things. So we never waited for a holiday to celebrate their positives. So that also contribute to living a better life, limiting negative interaction and things of that nature, because they were happy. And as long as they're happy, then my household is happy.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that too. So curious, like one of the things you spoke to, just in that moment, was about, bits and pieces, and taking time. And one of the things that I'm curious about, because I felt this as I was doing it, so I'm curious if you experienced the same thing. Did it ever feel selfish to you to start putting yourself first that way, to start taking care of yourself? Did you ever experience any feeling of that as you started learning and doing that, and yeah, taking care of yourself, more or less, like, in spite of what others were trying to influence, or how they wanted you to be? Did it ever feel selfish to you? I know for me, when I was after my divorce, putting myself first, and considering my needs and setting those boundaries, initially felt selfish because I was so used to not doing that. So I didn't know if that came up for you, and it may not have. I'm just curious. Yeah.
Once I put everything into motion,
Mhm.
I was more terrified than anything. I did not feel guilty.
Okay.
Um, Growing up, I grew up in church, so I've always fast. I've always, tried to eat healthy. Not all the time, but I try. Like certain little things I've done anyway. But then I got into the world and I got out of doing it. And so it was recognizing the negative, recognizing what I was missing. And so slowly but surely I started doing it. And I always offered, look what I learned, looked at this, and I always tried to share. But I had to make time to do it myself. So case in point, my ex-husband, he's a video game player.
Mhm.
Probably one of the best, that I've seen in a long time. And I used to play video games with him. I started having seizures.
Mhm.
So I can't play video games. I'll watch from a distance, but I can't sit there for like 20 minutes. I would take that time to work on my business, but it always became an argument. So what I started doing was making sure that he had excess time later in the evening after the kids went to bed. And you can play your game all you want to. I got my quality time, and I just had to rearrange things. But I didn't feel selfish about it. I was just scared that it wasn't going to be accepted. I was scared that I wasn't allowed to be a better person. I felt like though I had to be this, that, and the third. And when I prayed about it and I said, I'd rather him be mad at me for trying to do the right thing than to live a life being miserable. I know so many people that is married to this day, and I know your backstory, and you tell me how miserable you are. You can't give me advice. You're not even willing enough to make your life better. So I definitely can't listen to you. And I didn't want to be that person. So for me, I was just more fearful than, feeling selfish. I never felt selfish about it because I already knew it was veering away from what I knew that bothered me.
Gotcha. Okay, that's a real interesting perspective. I love that. I do love that. So yeah, so the fear was around just being accepted for the change, or like reconnecting with the truth that you knew before.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a different emotion for sure, and a different experience. So yeah, how long, I guess, like going through that, I mean, it's still having a process around it, because still, if it's not shame or guilt about putting yourself first and it's fear, then there's, like you said, it was still kind of a process. What if you don't mind sharing, what did that kind of look like as you went through that? Like, I'm just kind of curious, what the experience was like for you.
Well, in the beginning, it started off as just, verbally expressing what I was feeling, what I didn't like, what I had a problem with, what changed with me, what I think we should do different, things of that nature. And sometime it would be a positive return. And then sometime, I would have to go through the arguments and things of that nature. But if the actions didn't change, there was nothing I can do about it. Then I went to just start doing things different myself. And some of it was reciprocated, and some of it was still ignored till it got to the point to where I had to just come with the ultimatum. Either this or that is going to happen or whatever, because I can't do this anymore. And I actually went to a friend house and I did the whole movie scene where I go to my friend's house and I'm just like, girl, I don't know what I'm going to do, and crying and everything. And we eat ice cream and the kids is playing. And then I go home the next day like it's nothing. And then a week later, it's back to that. So after that, that's when I was like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. If you can't do this, and I had to do it and suck it up. And I did. And I'm still dealing with it today because the animosity still exists, and the first time I've seen my husband since 2017 was this year. The first time we've seen him. And it was just the most wonderful, beautiful thing. And I said, dog, I said, we can get along better as friends than we could when we were married, but I'm able now mentally to be a more mature woman and be there for him through what he's going through, which are the same things that I already knew he had to go through. It was just, I was young and I didn't understand it and I wasn't prepared for it. I hadn't read about nothing. I just, oh, you're acting like this and woo, woo. But now I need to be more patient. It's not that we should have even been married. Probably it was more we met each other because you needed help with something, and now I can help you without it being a negative effect on me. I can help you in a way that I know how to help you. And I'm thankful for that. At least we don't completely hate each other.
Right. So I think that's pretty cool to hear as well, that you gave yourself the permission to go ahead and, like, you knew what you needed to do. You first started off expressing what you needed to have changed, and then if it wasn't reciprocated, if it didn't show up, like, you still knew your own inner truth to be like, this still needs to happen, like, regardless of what the kind of consequences may be, like, if the however it impacted the relationship, you were still honoring that inner truth that you just, I imagine you really just felt it. Like there was no denying that, right? Yeah. I
And it
think
was
that's,
crazy because
go ahead.
Oh, I felt as though, like, I used to fast, and I've done the Daniel fast. I've done different 40-day fasts and everything. And I felt like my body was I don't know, was wanting the cleansing that I wasn't receiving. Like we had got to a point where we were just partying all the time, and people were like, "Oh, want a barbecue?" Like coming over every weekend, and it was fun and everything. But when we're together, we didn't have that same energy for each other. So something was still missing, and it's like I'm sitting here praying and you're sitting here playing a video game. Something's not right about this, and it was just something needed to be done. We both got to a point to where we couldn't sleep, and I kept saying, I watched the movie War Room. So I did that, and I took my little things, put them on the wall, and I would go in there and pray and go through everything. But he started becoming uncomfortable. It got to the point to where he couldn't even sleep through the night, and it was making me feel like it was me, and I know it's not me, because you're gone all day and I'm at my office. So I know it's not me, but the anger and the frustration was coming out. And so, knowing the red flags from domestic violence and the things that I went through, I did not want it to escalate. And so I had to do what I had to do. And, I'm still single, I've remained single because I know I loved him, but I feel like now I would never take the same steps to be with anyone, to be in that relationship ever again. I feel like it's useless. I do truly believe that what is meant for you is going to come to you. And it's not going to be the cutest man, that you see walking down the street. It's definitely not going to be him. That's the devil,
Right.
because that's how the enticement goes. But I've learned to calm myself, and so these situations that I'm in, I don't think that every person that says hi to me is trying to come on to me. I don't think every handshake is something that's going to turn into a relationship. I've learned to remain calm as an adult and interact with other adults as adults, not a young, promiscuous young lady. That's not me. I'm learning to just take the moment for the moment and enjoy it. And that was something that I didn't do.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot there that's really awesome about, like just honoring your inner truth and to being calm and just like just the growth of there's a lot of courage and strength that goes into how you have allowed yourself to live your life, and just taking care of yourself that way. And I just like hearing when people go through that stuff, because I can appreciate the challenges and the effort and the things that go along with that. So that's and just the experiences, like you said, like, not every handshake's going to lead to a relationship, or like you don't feel that way anymore. There's just like these changing in perceptions. So like just hearing like the growth that you've had, through your experiences, and how you're just allowing that to shape your future, like in an intentional, mindful way, like you're not just allowing it to just, you're being very present is what I'm trying to say. So that's always fun to hear. And I think that's awesome that you've
Yes, I
gone through that.
believe everybody needs that. You said being present, because man, look, I was dead and gone back then and didn't care. I was that go with the flow person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I got my own energy. I vibe at a totally different level, and I need to keep that going. And if you can't help me keep me going, I can't help you keep you going. And so I really live by that, where I don't care if it's 100 people in there, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to migrate to the person that's going to make me laugh. We can talk about it. And I feel like I've been knowing you for years. And I'm like, that's what I'm used to. People, I'm used to people talking to me, and I'm used to those things. But all of that was taken away from me, or better yet, I let it dwindle away. And so it was like, once I started getting back my happiness and the things that made me feel so much joy, which was servitude. I was raised on servitude. So, I grew up volunteering. I grew up just seeing smiles on people's faces for the things that we did. Whereas I had become a person that I want to sell everything. And, I'm not going to do anything unless you're going to pay me and all that type of stuff. But it was bringing me so much misery, because I wasn't happy with that. And so you got to push forward. You got to open up your eyes. And I believe that your creator is going to show you, and then it's just up to you to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Being allowing ourselves to go with that guidance, and like, yeah, just I think that's part of that owning our own truths, right? Because it's gonna, each one of us has our own path and way to be guided and the way to serve in the world, and only we're gonna know what that is. And just allowing ourselves to honor that. Once we do, I feel the same way. Like it really just opens things up in an entirely new way in our lives, and a new way of feeling and being. And in spite of like all of those challenges, and again, like what other people think it should look like, or what we should be doing with our life, and all of that, like that's that real strength that comes through just not listening to that and honoring what's right for us, like, because it's a real game changer when you start to
Yes.
do that. Yeah. 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 Well, thank you. That was great.
No problem. No, it's you, like, talking about it. The more I talk about so many things, the better it makes you feel. It's like a cleansing. You gotta let it out. You gotta hold it in. And if you get with the right person and they ask the right questions, the conversation can go on for hours. So
Yeah.
I just appreciate you allowing me to even be on your podcast.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate you being a guest and sharing the different pieces of your life with us, and just being vulnerable, because just going through the experiences that I have with my guests and everything, there's just so much courage in sharing these different pieces of our lives with each other. So I just want to honor you and honor all of my guests in the past and the future for that, because it's a great share and vulnerability, and there's a lot of strength and courage that goes into that. So I just want to say thank you. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you as well.
Absolutely. Do you want to speak about anything that you do, or how people can find you, or how they can get in touch with you if you want to? Just thought I'd give you a chance to mention anything.
Okay. Yes. So in Real Life Enterprises, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and we are on Twitter. You can go to our website at www.irlanswers.com. You can also give us a call. We have a toll-free number. It is 877-807-7477. And we're actually going to be starting our own channel on the Roku TV. So look for that. We will be IRL TV. And we'll be opening up our advertising. So anyone want to reach out to get on one of our channels, let me know.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you, Ms. Banks. I really appreciate you being a guest and taking the time and sharing with us today. It was great chatting with you.
Oh, it was wonderful chatting with you. You brought back some memories. I'm gonna have to go home and drink some hot chocolate.
All right. That wraps up today's episode of The Real Zack Olinger. Thanks again for listening. If you happen to find this episode insightful or valuable, I invite you to pass it along to somebody else, because chances are, if you found it valuable, they will too. If you're on Instagram, you can find me at The Real Zack Olinger. Until next time, everybody. Thanks for listening.